and welcome back to Call The Midwife. We are three superfans, and each week we watch and discuss an episode. So please join us. Today we're going to be discussing Season 5, Episode 4. I'm Becky.
I'm Alex.
I'm Jen, and a reminder that this week's episode deals with infant mortality, attempted suicide, and miscarriage. So if those topics are ones you would prefer to skip this time, we understand and hope you join us for the next one. In this week's episode, we meet Ian Bulmer and Linda Lanyard. They are a young couple in love, and Ian has just got the good news that he has been accepted to university. Ian's excitement quickly is stifled with some complicated news. Linda is pregnant. Both families find out, and the pressure is on Ian to propose and stay in Poplar, working at the same factory as his future father-in-law. Ian is heartbroken, and Tom, who helped him get into the university in the first place, counsels him. When Linda goes for her first checkup at clinic, Trixie discovers something concerning. Linda is having a miscarriage. Trixie cares for her, and she takes Linda and Ian's mother home, only to find Tom breaking in after smelling gas and being worried that Ian has made a terrible choice. After much discussion and thought, Linda and Ian end the engagement, and Ian makes plans to return to university. Next, Sister Julienne takes on a temporary role serving at St. Cuthbert's for the week, and while there, she sees the vast difference of working in a hospital. When Ruby Cottingham is admitted, Sister Julienne steps in and is part of the team that performs a C-section to deliver her baby. Everyone is upset when they see the baby has been born with severe deformity. Sister Julienne promised Ruby she would look after the baby once it was born, but when she finds it left exposed in the sluice room, she is shocked. She comforts the baby in its last minutes, but it does not survive. Both the hospital and Dr. Turner and Sheila are mystified by this trend in birth defect, but it is Sister Julienne who must care for Ruby and deliver the terrible news. Last, Barbara and Tom begin to struggle as the secrecy of their relationship puts a strain on Barbara and Trixie's friendship. Girls, just to say, we have returned to top form in terms of absolutely so heartbreakingly sad episodes of Call the Midwife that will just make you cry and like existentially feel terrible about everything.
Although, can I just say, shout out for the name Linda Lanyard.
I loved her name.
I know, she sounds like the girlfriend of a superhero. It's like very
Linda
like
Lanyard.
Yeah, it's very like Pepper Potts energy right there.
I loved it.
Oh man, this one really broke my heart like so many times.
It's absolutely heartbreaking.
And like but so predictable.
Yeah. Just like layers of sad stuff too. Like it's like, oh, you think it's happy? No, it's sad. Wait, it's gonna get sadder. Oh wait, no, it gets even sadder. I mean it.
Are you feeling all right? Stay there because you're not gonna in a second.
Oh my God, no, it's just
amazing. I mean, still, that we're not complaining. We love it, but
goodness. It was a really beautiful episode, but I mean, my cryometer was just absolutely off the charts this week. I mean, I was just like, I was like a cartoon with just tears like pouring out of me, like, the whole time. Oh man.
Do you know what I did love about Linda is that she was lovely with her mother-in-law, which you don't always get.
No, you don't.
I like that too. Yeah.
Well, also, her mother had died, hadn't she? So she was like a mother, her mum, really, because they'd been together since primary school, haven't they? She didn't choose it. He didn't choose her. They chose each other in their first first day of mixed infants.
The other thing I loved was the opening scene, really, where Sadie's royal collection of cups and plates.
I thought you might like that. For anyone who doesn't know, Becky is well into the royal family and loves all that kind of stuff, the plates and things like that, don't you?
With it, yeah.
Yeah, that's very Beck's.
I'm feeling Sadie.
Love the name Sadie as well. Also, I liked it when they had Ian at first, obviously before they found out she was pregnant and everything. They were waiting for the post. And Ian was talking about, they were waiting for the post to see if he was going to get into university. And he was doing poetry. And I'm not going to lie, him just doing poetry just gave me the ick. I was like, but they found out that he did get into Durham, which is a really good university. And
it's a good university.
But she was like, first in the street. Well done, son.
Oh,
like it was like this massive deal because he was first in the street.
Yeah, he was getting a liberal arts degree like back when it actually meant something and you could like have a good career off of it.
Yeah. Well, I remember my grandma being like, your dad was the first in the street. That was the thing here as well.
Really? Your dad was like Ian, like the first one to go to university.
Yeah, he was the first in the family and he was the first in the street.
Wow. That's really something, Al.
Yeah. I was the second no, I wasn't, because his brother went. So I was a third in the family to graduate university.
Wow. Wait, your brother went to university too, though, right?
Didn't graduate.
Oh. Okay. Well, anyways, we're just going to speed right through that one.
I hope he doesn't listen to our podcast. No shame.
He's a very happy and successful
He's in
person.
a very
so
accomplished, exactly. Yeah.
yes, there's no university degree that is needed to, he's in a great place. Yes.
I
But
do
also-
apologise if you can hear a really bad. I don't know if that's going to come up in the edit, but my daughter's got, for her birthday this week, she got a pedometer kind of thing, like a Fitbit, and she's now jumping on the spot upstairs to try and get it to do to a certain amount. Just heard her, so I do apologise.
Oh my gosh, she asked for a pedometer for her birthday.
She asked for a hat that you drink drinks out of, like the beer hats with the straws.
Like for guys at football games.
She asked for a
and stuff.
Fitbit, one of those hats. She asked for a chocolate fountain, and she asked for a foot spa. I don't think she's a normal 6-year-old.
Oh my gosh! Although
kids love Fitbits; they're obsessed with them.
Yeah, and kids ask for the most random presents. I remember I babysat for my cousin for a super long time when she was growing up, and she's now like 19, which like we can't even discuss it. But I remember it was like she was in maybe, I want to say like 2nd or 3rd grade, so like 7, 8 years old. And one of the things she asked for, I don't remember if it was her birthday or Christmas, but one of the gifts that she wanted was a dozen red roses.
Oh,
that's so sweet. She wanted red roses for her present, and I'll never forget it. I just remember being like, okay, just something about that.
That does sound like some of my daughter.
Yeah, like the gifts they ask for are just so pure. Like there's something so like guileless about like little kid present requests. You know what I mean? Oh, anyway, I'll never forget that.
Talking to little kids, let's get back to this. So
yeah,
Linda,
we're just trying to give ourselves a mental reprieve before we dive right in.
So Linda, she's actually quite collected for how she is acting, because she obviously already knew, because she'd been to the doctor that morning, and she meets Ian, and she's like, I just need to tell you something. I'm in the family way. Oh no, he said I do, didn't it? Isn't it funny how you say I do, but you're gonna have to be saying it for real soon? And he was like, what do you mean? And she's like, I'm in the family way. And then he just walks off, and she's chasing after him.
Yeah.
Do you know, for a minute I thought she might have been trapping him, but she was actually pregnant.
Yeah.
Well,
did that not go through anyone else's mind?
No,
I didn't think she was like intentionally trapping him, but I will say this: there was something that, and I had real sympathy and care for Linda, but at the same time, like I did find myself a little frustrated with her, because you could tell that Ian had been like working so hard to get into the university and like had done all this stuff and everything, and he'd been obviously talking about it for ages and ages. And she clearly did not seem excited about it. She was like, well, we can have a nice life here. And, why don't you want to like just stay here? And I don't really want to I don't really want anything other than just this view of the Thames and like, the life we've always known and everything.
What's that
he's
poem?
Like, yeah, she's like, tell me that poem you read. And then he like says this beautiful poem. My mom knew exactly what poem it was. I think it's called like, she knew it anyways. I can't remember now, but he was like, but but he says to her, he's like, well, the poem in the river in the poem is not the Thames. Like, that is not what they're talking about. Like, the Thames is a disgusting garbage pile, like in comparison to what I'm referencing here. And she's like, I know, but it's so sweet. And then he's like, okay, well, anyways, and I just thought, like, she clearly is ready to like start marriage, family, like all of that, like right now. She
hasn't got much bloody choice, has she? She's got a bun in the oven.
Well, she hasn't, but
never used that expression ever in my life. I don't know why I just used it then.
But the thing is, like, she's already working at the factory, like she's already clocking in, like she's just kind of like on that train, and he is not and doesn't want to be. And so I think she was kind of like, oh well, this solves everything, like now he doesn't have to go away for 3 years, like now we don't have to kind of like do all of that, and maybe we can just have this life that's nice and comfortable and what's known to us. And I didn't think she was trapping him, but I thought she had maybe a secondary reason to be happy about being pregnant.
I know, but also the time period when it was, kind of like she had no other choice.
But also at the time period when it was, I think if he'd have gone, I mean, spoiler, he does go to university. I don't think that would have broken them up. It's not like going to university.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to be pulling someone in a club called something awful, like what are they called? They've all got names that are just awful, all these pubs.
Yeah, the Diamond Mine, or like Thunder Road, or whatever.
Valentino's, just awful.
Yeah, or like Easy Street or whatever, just these disgusting club names, and you're like go in there and you're like, oh my God, only terrible things are going to happen at this place.
Just one quick flashback really quick to a story about when we went to university. Do you remember that night where it was free till you pee?
Oh my God. Yeah. Sadly,
just had a flashback. People don't believe me when I say that night was a free till you pee. So basically, just really quick, all the drinks were free in this club until someone went to the toilet. And it was ridiculous. It was carnage. People were going in plants. They were going outside to go into the pubs. It was awful. It was the most. They never did it again. Just saying. Anyway.
Yeah. Human beings are really ingenious and destructive and gross.
Students who don't want to spend money on drinks are for definite.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure when Tom gave him the train fare for the university interview, that wasn't what he had in mind.
So anyway, so she's pregnant. So then she has to tell her dad, and her dad, quite rightly, was quite angry and was threatening Ian. And Tom was there as a mediator, and it was just, I think it was very unnecessarily dramatic scene, like the opening bit.
Well, she's like, "Oh, I've got something to tell you, Dad," and he's like, "What?" She's like, "Just don't go mad at me." And then literally cut to Tom, Ian getting slammed against the wall by Linda's father, and he's like, "I'm gonna have you," and Tom is like, "Whoa," like he comes in and he like breaks him up and everything.
Well, I've written here, Ian, for someone supposedly so clever, he is really thick. I think I've done that because
Ian.
When he was like, "Yeah, but in 3 years I can have it," and it's like, well, babies don't come in 3 years, and his mum was like, "You've got 7 months, you absolute moron." Like,
yeah. Well, my frustration was, I was like, Ian, I'm like, you and Linda were so close. I'm like, couldn't you have just kept it together for another few months? They both knew the risks of.
Well, so basically, then he obviously agrees to marry her, and he pawned his dad's long service watch to pay for it.
And I think this is the fact that because his dad passed away years earlier, and his dad worked in the same factory.
Yeah.
His mum's not well because she works in the factory.
And he died of emphysema, his dad, and they reckon his mum's got it as well.
Yeah. So
okay.
So he pawns the long service watch to buy, or does he sell it or pawn it?
No, he pawns it
to buy Linda's engagement ring. And I'm just like, oh, Ian.
Yeah, but she seemed really proud of that. Like, oh, he pawned his dad's most prized possession of his dead dad. Like, why are you proud of that, Linda?
And I wouldn't have let him do that.
She was taking it as like, look how much he loves me, that he would give up something he values so much to get this engagement ring.
I would have been, let's get it back, and I don't need a ring. Well,
that's what
I do need a ring for,
Well, okay, just before I make my comment, what's long service? Is that just like a military career?
No, like he was there for his whole career at the factory, so he was there for like 35 years or whatever.
Oh, at the factory. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm thinking of something. I thought service meant like a veteran. Okay. That's okay.
So fast forward to the fact that they have this.
But just one thing. I think I know your point about the engagement ring. You would have been like, oh, let's just not bother. But the thing is, like, when she went to her appointment for the prenatal appointment, everything like that, she had her engagement ring on, but she felt embarrassed because it wasn't a wedding ring, and she was like, oh, people are gonna know I'm pregnant but not married. And so I think that's why that's another reason why it was important for her, was because she was like, oh, I feel embarrassed that like I'm gonna be potentially showing that I'm pregnant without an obvious sign that like I'm married. And
there's ways around it.
Yeah.
Sadie could have given her the ring.
I agree. I'm not defending Linda. I'm just saying I think that's probably part of the reason why.
There's a very important point I'm about to make that's very important.
Okay.
So they fast forward, they have an engagement party in a pub. I loved all the old East End sing-along.
Yeah.
Now, then Ian's like goes off on his own somewhere, and Tom goes to find him. Now, did anyone else, this is my important point, find it absolutely disgusting that Ian was sat on the toilet floor in a pub?
1000%. Oh my God. I was just like, why?
I'd be like, get up off the floor.
Yeah, Tom sat down with it. Like, I'm not being funny. If you've been to a scratty pub, like, there will be people who've never been to a scratty pub in their life.
Ugh.
They are disgusting. And women's toilets are disgusting. Men's, times that by 1 billion. They are. The floor in a men's, no thank you.
Horrible. I couldn't believe it was really distracting me in the scene. Actually, I think you're exactly right. I'm glad you pointed this out. This is a critical point to be made.
And it just shows that Ian's not as bright as he thinks. Sorry, Bex.
Well, perhaps it's to illustrate just how desperate he thinks of the situation, that he's prepared to sit on that floor.
Yeah, how down in the dumps he is. Did you know? I will tell you
nothing in this world would ever make me sit on a floor in a pub toilet like that.
I don't really want to sit on my own bathroom floor, to be honest with you. I mean, like, of all the places you would choose to sit down, a bathroom floor in any venue is not.
Yeah, but a scratty pub one with men's urine everywhere. No, thank you.
Any public toilet is not. No.
I mean, I don't even want to put my bag down. I'm always looking for a hook.
Yeah,
Same.
me too. I don't even want like oh no. But the thing is, I mean, I will say, like, to your point, Bex, I think Ian was incredibly despondent. Like the look on his face when they were singing those songs and everyone was like, hooray! Oh, and like when the dad like gave him the present and he opened up the jacket that he's gonna wear at the factory for the next 40 years.
Oh, how
like,
is that a present?
The color actually like just drained out of his face. He looked so depressed. Like he literally looked like he was about to just jump into like, a sinkhole or something like that. I mean, oh my God, that boy, like, and everyone around him was just like, well, anyway, like totally no one even thought about it. It was really breaking my heart. I was really, really feeling so bad for Ian there. I just thought
Tom and Ian then have this heart to heart on the toilet floor, and he's like, I don't love her more than anything else in the world, Mr. Hereward, talking about it. Like, I love her, I don't love her more than anything else in this world. And Tom's like, well, tough, she's pregnant, mate. Like,
yeah. and really everyone gave him that advice. Everyone was like, well, sorry, and it was really sad.
It was really sad. But then the next day, Linda goes to clinic on the Tuesday.
But what I don't get is why they could have got married. He could have gone off to university.
Yeah.
And but who's going to pay for anything?
Well, she could have just stayed at home.
Yeah, but
surely they could have muddled by.
I mean,
it's more the shame and stuff. Do you mean get married and he goes to
university? They could have got married and him go off to university.
If they were probably from a more affluent area, maybe they could. But I'm presuming his mum's like, she's working on her last legs, and she's probably going to send him money up for his lodgings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, I suppose.
I just think the rigidity of societal expectation at this time, like, was so off the charts. Like the fact that no one was willing to even discuss an alternative solution just says, I think, a lot about,
Yeah, and the fact that Linda was like, I do, you're going to be saying it, not like, oh, I hope you're going to be saying. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, we haven't gotten there yet, but okay. So she goes to the clinic the next day, Al,
and Trixie's there to see. It was actually Trixie who, and also Trixie and Barbara have been a bit barbed with each other. Because Trixie was kind of dealing with this family, she was like, "Oh, I'll deal with them," and Barbara was like, "Oh, I'd like a quick change of pace, and I'd like to boil some wee."
She's like, I haven't boiled any urine all day.
So she was seeing Linda, and she was really sweet with the way she was saying it. But have you been spotting or anything? And she was like, there is bleeding now. So she went to the toilet, and she needed to double check everything, but she was actually miscarrying, and Linda was all upset because it's awful.
Oh yeah.
But also, can I just say here,
would she not have noticed that? I would have noticed that.
Well, you don't know though, do you? Like, I will say it's weird when you're pregnant though, because you don't really know what to expect either. Like, I was having pains, like period pains, but nothing was coming. Do you know what I mean? So if she hadn't checked her knickers since she'd sat down and it just happened, she might not have known.
She said she'd been spotting like off and on for like kind of the whole time, but I just think she's like young and it's her first pregnancy and she just doesn't really know, like I just chalked it up to ignorance,
She said, and I quote, "Something's come away." Something's come away, Claxon writers, because I know this carries on as a theme. So writers, just be aware of how many times you're using "something's come away."
Yeah, well, we haven't had a come away Claxon in a hot minute either.
No.
We were
also,
overdue.
We've not done it since I've been editing, so I don't know how it's going to
work. We're going to have to do the pew, 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 like just add in our own sound effect.
So Trixie takes Linda and Sadie home, or she goes back with them just to tuck her in bed with, just a bit more aftercare because it's an emotional time and she wants to just check she's okay. So they go back to...
And just to say, Trixie's been caring for Sadie because Sadie has a burn on her arm that's needed daily visits as well. So there's multiple...
Yeah, so that's how she was already had contact with the family. Yeah. So they go towards the house and Tom Hereward had already realised that Ian hadn't actually turned up for his shift at the factory. So he went to go and find him because he knew, obviously, that he was in a bad state because he sat on the floor in the toilet. So he was heading over there and he was trying to break in. And I genuinely thought he was going to barge that door open. And then luckily, I was like, oh, yes, they've come with a key.
Yes, exactly.
Do you know, if you're going to break a door down, you should go for the side with the hinges because that's the weakest point.
That's fact, Bex.
That's a very good one. Yeah.
Have you used it?
I've not used it myself, no. It's just someone gave me that advice once.
You're like a secret survivalist expert.
Yeah.
Are you supposed to do it with your foot as well or your shoulder?
I don't know, but just because there's the screws and the hinge, that's a weaker point than the lock.
Okay.
Oh, excuse me. That was
That's really
good. Do you guys think Tom could have broken down the door if they hadn't had the key?
No. It was 50s workmanship. That door wasn't going to budge.
Also, it wasn't a big run up, it was a small corridor.
Yeah, he really only could take a few steps, and then, and he tried once before they had before the key. Anyways, but they get in, and poor Ian is like laying in front of the oven, and they pull him out, and they stand him up outside the apartment, open the window and everything.
Yeah, everywhere's smelling of gas. They're all coughing, opening the windows.
Yeah. And Trixie and Tom kind of are like standing like face to face because they're both holding Ian up on either side. And they kind of have this like, oh, here we are. Oh, we didn't expect this. And then Ian like promptly like vomits on the floor and Trixie's shoes as well. And
well, yeah, Tom's like, he missed my shoes, but he's got mine though.
Yeah. And so they kind of have like a little like haha type of a moment and everything. And then I think right after that, Tom and Trixie go back kind of to Poplar, but Ian turns out like he's going to be okay. And then it's kind of like, okay, well, now they've got to figure out what they're going to do because the baby's gone. And which is, I mean, it was a sad situation. And then another sad situation got them out of the first sad situation, but then they were both in another sad situation.
Well, it was like a duality as well, because obviously Tom was saying if it was a broken engagement, it's a big deal because obviously it was actually an agreement that they were going to get married. So then for Ian to actually break the engagement would be terrible. It'd be like social suicide because his girlfriend had just miscarried. It was just this awful situation.
Yeah.
Now Linda, because she's so lovely, Linda Lanyard, she was saying, no, do you know what, Ian, you go to university. This ring can wait. This can wait until afterwards. I think Linda can do better than Ian, I'm not going to lie. But Ian does.
She's going to be a teacher.
But girls, okay, I know it's 1961, but like, do we think this relationship is going to survive?
Well, that's exactly what I was going to ask.
I don't know. I put very low odds on these two.
I think he'll go up to university in Durham and he'll find a really posh girl from a background who loves poetry like him, and he'll be absolutely in love with her. Yeah. And Linda Lanyard will meet some chippy little man down in the factory. No, why, lovely? How are you doing, Linda Lanyard?
The minute Ian sits in a class with a girl who like is like, oh, I know that poem. Do you know this one? And then he's never heard of it. He's gonna absolutely fall off of his butt, and then he's just gonna be like, oh my god, like I had no idea. And then he's gonna be sitting in a pub, and he's like, oh, these people are so different than the ones back home.
And probably good because Linda Lanyard didn't see anything wrong with her life, and he did.
Yeah,
so that's probably a good thing.
If they both wanted the same thing and he stayed, then I think it's a different story. But he's going off to become a different person, and she's staying to become the person she's kind of growing herself into. And like, I just think by the time he comes back from university, they're going to be so vastly different that like, I would be shocked if they were going to make it work. I mean, I don't.
But they've known each other since primary school.
Yeah.
I know, but I don't know. Those are like,
I don't think that's necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I would say that no relationship is going to survive university, nor should it. But back then, I think there's a chance.
Oh, I like your romantic view on it. You're wrong.
But you're very hopeful, and that's really special, I think. I mean, I wouldn't, if I was going to bet on them in Vegas.
Special in a nice way.
No, I do mean it in a nice way. I think it is really sweet and heartening that you think that they're going to survive. I mean, yeah. I don't, but I love that you're holding it down for us, Bex.
I just think Linda can do better. I think she could have a happier life with someone who doesn't talk.
But also, it would be nice for Linda to. I was just rooting for them, but actually, it'd be nice for Linda to meet somebody who actually would give up something for her.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
I agree.
I feel like the two used to each other. They've always been there, so it's kind of just taken for granted.
They're like an old shoe.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, it's like what is that? The old sock and the slipper or something like that,
Do you know, it's really funny you should say that because we were having trouble remembering the actual
the line
quote. Sherry Vokes, we love you, Sherry. She wrote in and said there is a sock for every old slipper.
Oh.
Jen said something like every slipper has a foot. Lol.
I'm always giving these amazing line readings myself. Yes.
Yeah. Right. Should we go on to something else, ladies?
Yes, let's.
Should we do Sister Julienne at the hospital?
Yes, because this leads on to the other. Sister Julienne working at the hospital leads on to the next story, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah, so she did 2 births this week, didn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was earning a cute this week.
Oh my gosh, yes, she was. So St. Cuthbert's is different from the London, I'm guessing. It's like St. Cuthbert's is one hospital and London is a different one. And then, but they're both just kind of regular hospitals with regular services, including maternity services, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but how depressing did the exterior of that hospital look?
Ooh.
Very, very, very depressing.
Yeah, just, okay, yeah. It's like, all right, we have clearly only built this for like functional use. But Sister Julienne shows up there. She's like, I'm looking forward to a change of pace. Like, I haven't done one of these in a while. Like, I think it's gonna be good for me.
Yeah,
she
10 years.
Yeah. So she shows up and she immediately gets put into a birthing room with a Saletti woman, which we've, had Saletti mothers before, called Jamila. And there's a regular sister nurse midwife that's kind of helping with the labor and everything like that, but she's just about to go on break, and she's like, listen, like, these labors last so long, like, we really like to keep to our break schedule, as long as nothing like immediate is happening. And Sister Julienne is like, oh, okay, well, that's not really how I do it, but that's fine. But she doesn't say anything. She just has this kind of very like nice, but look on her face. And so then she goes and starts visiting with Jamila and helping her and everything. And, Jamila, instantly kind of feels comforted and whatever. And then when the nurse comes back in, Sister Julienne's gotten her like a cup of tea and she's walking her around and all of that kind of thing. And immediately the nurse is like, no, like up on the bed, like, this is how we do things, like all, that kind of modern convention and everything.
Well, I really like the way they did that, like the stark contrast of this sterile delivery room and the efficiency of the NHS, which is represented by the nurse.
Yeah.
And then, Sister Julienne, who's been used to doing it, who's done it very successfully out in the community. And I just love that cup of tea in the surgery. It was just such a stark contrast. I just thought it was really powerful.
Yeah. And it just showed kind of it's weird because like my instinct is to feel that the hospital way is kind of the best way.
Yeah.
Because that's my modern experience as like a person growing up with that as like the model for care. But at the same time, like I was like, no, just let her have her cup of tea. Like Sister Julienne knows what she's doing.
Well, Sister Julienne did know because the nurse was saying we're going to have to get it out. It's not going to come. But the baby was actually born the natural way because of Sister Julienne. I put here, Sister Julienne showed that sister. She showed she still had it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there was a lot of tension in that scene, I thought, like kind of setting up that dichotomy between those two things.
But also, Sister Julienne proved herself. And I think she earned the respect from the sister. And I really like that.
Oh, well, if there's anyone that deserves... Right, you guys just know I love Sister Julienne so much. Yes, I'm really glad she got that experience to kind of start her week off in terms of the narrative of the story and everything. But so this
storyline goes on to Mrs. Cottingham.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Ruby's expecting her fourth child. She's got 3 boys.
Yeah, a gaggle of lads.
She comes to clinic and she asks if the boys can play in the Wendy house. And Sheila tells her, we don't want a repeat of the incident with the mangle. What was the incident with the mangle?
Oh God. Well, did you hear her shout? She's like, get your fingers out of there. And it was like, oh my Lord. Can you just imagine like a whole bunch of broken baby fingers? Like,
well, she's just shouting at the kids, doing jokes about how much she hates going home and just chain smoking.
Yeah.
Seaman has no control over those boys. Or those 3 boys together must just egg each other on.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 boys is tough. 3 boys will like really wear you out. Yeah. Yeah.
And also she was a model patient for them. She's done it before. She's just carrying on. She's doing really well. Sister Julienne was saying, because obviously Sister Julienne was the one who did the consultation with her, you really are a model patient, Mrs. Cottingham. Have you thought about a hospital delivery or a maternity ward? Maternity, is it ward? What do they call it? Maternity home delivery. And she's like, we can't. The house, there won't be a house to go back to.
Yeah. Well, this was kind of at the beginning when they were having having the baby at home versus the hospital, like talk, they had a pamphlet printed out and everything. So, there were a bunch of moms kind of sitting there, and this one mother, they were like, oh, is it your first time? And she was like, yeah, because she was very nervous about getting the gas and air and like having it be safe to deliver at home and everything. And they were like, oh, and then that's when Ruby's like, oh, the Nanottins, they'll take care of you. They know what's going on. And,
Where was she from? Sorry.
She's from where I sounded like she was from.
So Mrs. Cottingham did go into labour after this, and she was at home, which is what she wanted, and she'd done that with her first 3 with Nanottins. You're always safe with Nanottins. Nanottins, yeah. And she had, I put here labour with Barbara and Tom. I don't mean Barbara and Tom. I mean Barbara and Phyllis.
Barbara and Phyllis, yeah.
That's just like a weird AI episode, labour with Barbara and Tom. Now, she was really struggling to actually get the baby out. And she was in a lot of pain, and she was like, it wasn't like this with my others. It wasn't like this with my others, Nurse Crane.
Yeah.
So Nurse Crane, did you see that Nurse Crane said to ring the hospital or get the flying squad to Barbara? And I thought, they're not going to get a helicopter on that roof.
How are they gonna land it?
How was I so thick to think that?
Oh my God.
You need to listen back if people don't get that joke.
Yeah, that's a real OG reference right there. If you've been with us that long, then like hats off, honestly.
Yeah. So she was sent to hospital, and then that kind of cut that scene. We don't see, we don't see Barbara's reaction, we don't see Phyllis's reaction. We just see cut to Sister Julienne walking along the corridor, this stark white corridor in the hospital, and then Mrs. Cottingham's crying out in pain on a stretcher. It's kind of a stretcher. What do they call those stretchers with wheels?
A gurney.
Well, I knew you'd know. I knew
gurney,
Becky'd know.
Gurney.
Well done, Becky. That was brilliant knowledge.
Here's me being stupid. I was like, no, it's a stretcher. That's what they call it. And then Becky was like, oh, it's a gurney. And I was like, yep, right too. Okay.
And she was like, Sister Julienne, thank God you're here. And I do have to say, because obviously we've seen scenes when, what's her name? Jenny, the one who actually the whole thing's based on her.
Oh, Jenny. Yeah.
When she was there, where they wouldn't let them do anything like that. I feel like Sister Julienne, with that first birth and everything like that, and also she's a bit more senior than Jenny. They kind of let her do that, and I love the fact they let Sister Julienne stay with her. They knew that she had the trust of the patient. I was so pleased that actually happened.
Yeah.
And then
so they try and deliver the baby, but then she has to have an emergency cesarean.
Yes, and I cannot tell you. I've written here, my God, the cesarean. I keep telling myself it's not real. But my God, I can't tell you how much I nearly fainted when I watched that.
Oh gosh, girls.
They were cutting in to, and I know it's not real. I'm gonna keep trying to tell myself it's not real, but that they did not have to go that graphic.
That was definitely the most graphic birth I think we've seen on the show thus far. I mean, and obviously, it's extreme. The thing I commented on is the fact that, now I don't know, I apologize because I didn't Google or do any research or whatever on this, but that doctor cut Miss Ruby from he cut her vertically, and nowadays when you have a cesarean section, you cut someone horizontally, across their lower abdomen, and then it's a more concealed scar and But I was like, how long have we been doing cesareans? When did that change? What was the medical procedure that I was just curious at that, because that looked totally different than what I've always known. I mean, even by the time I was born, and I was born in 79, and I was born by cesarean, which was an emergency as well.
I was C-section as well.
Yeah, but my mom's C-section happened.
1965, they became more common in the UK.
Oh, okay. See, there you go. That I don't know. That's a small detail, but anyways, it just stuck out to me but yeah, when they pulled that baby out, it was very upsetting on many levels, we'll just say.
Well, so Sister Julienne's face.
Yeah. So the baby's born. We should say as well, because Ruby had 3 boys, she was hoping for a girl this time around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she made a bunch of comments about wanting a girl.
Yeah, the baby's born and it's underdeveloped, so they actually don't know whether it is a boy or a girl. And the doctor just says, "Oh God, another one! It's alive." Doesn't even refer to it as it's just an it.
Yeah, so it's obviously had no limbs. It was malformed completely. There was no genitals of any kind or any indication of any gender, because the baby was so malformed. But can I just say, Jenny Agutter, she was wearing a face mask, which I thought was very apt, because obviously this was filmed before COVID and everything. But her face mask acting was absolutely outstanding. You know exactly what she was thinking, even though most of her face was covered. Her eye acting, honestly, I was like, that was amazing. How she's not won something amazing for that? That was brilliant acting.
She is so expressive, and my love for her just continued. But her ability to convey truly complex emotion and thought, expressively, just with only her face and her body. I mean, oh my God, her talent. Oh, she's so talented. Just give her every award. I just think she's so, she's so good. I just
amazing. That delivers the baby, it just has such disdain and disgust for this baby because it's been malformed. And I just think, but then he says, right, now we need to turn our attention to the mother. But I don't know, I just felt his reaction was, it would have been shocking, but would he have had, I don't know, he just didn't show any sort of empathy or...
Yeah, you're right. He didn't. He was terrible. He was so rude.
I wonder, though, with the doctor, if his reaction when it was like, oh, not another one, the disgust and disdain at it, is maybe to show how many they've had to try
to try and show how, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like he's
Like
more used to it, or
desensitized to it.
yes, because it's happened more than once. Like it keeps happening.
Yeah.
To show how common it is my point.
Say what you said, Bex.
Just that he's become a little desensitized to it. Like it, whereas it was like when Susan Mullocks was born, it was really shocking.
Yeah. Well, Sister Julienne's first guttural reaction was her eye acting.
Her eye acting was off the charts. Oh wait, can I just point out though? I think, I mean, again, this was a short thing, but to me also, I think in a hospital it's a bit of a different environment as well, because I mean, granted, like Ruby Cottingham was under anesthesia, so she couldn't hear anything. But did you like clock the kind of casual, slightly like racist thing that the nurse said about Jamila Shaji when Sister Julienne walked in? She was like, "Oh, these lot are like really, shy around male doctors,
panic
and, like,
a lot."
Yeah, and they like get really upset really quickly, and like that. And she like talked about her like she wasn't in the room first off, and then she was also just like blanketly like making this really kind of rude comment about like a whole group of people.
It wasn't kind of rude; it was very rude.
Well, very, very rude. Yeah. It was just I didn't like that, and I just was like, I wonder if this is not that like people in hospital are like worse or whatever, but it's to me it's that more kind of like you said, it kind of like clinical atmosphere, where it's more kind of like washed away, and some of that like care and attention to the individual patient is not the same as when you're kind of out in the community.
Yeah, it's more like dehumanized.
Right. Yeah, like the patients are not real people the same way.
They don't have the same connection.
Right. Like the doctor just kind of looks at Ruby as just like, oh, she's just a woman, he doesn't know anything about her. He may not even know her name. Like he certainly doesn't have any kind of context about her as a person.
Well, speaking of dehumanizing, Sister Julienne she goes to look for the baby. And she goes to the nursery at first, and the nurse is like, there's no baby here. And then she finds the baby in a cold room with the window open.
Do you think that would have surely that wouldn't have happened?
I do think that would have happened.
I think it would have happened as well. Yeah, I 1000% think it would have.
And I'll tell you for why. I think it had happened. Okay. My auntie was born really, really prematurely. She's 70 now. She literally turned 70 in February. And she was born like the same as like a bag of sugar. And her mum's sister was a midwife, and she actually delivered the baby. She was actually quite high up around there as a midwife, and she said normally they would have just put the baby in the bin, kind of, that's it, it's done. And she's not going to survive. Yeah, she's not going to survive, so let's just get rid. And this, because it was obviously her family, which is actually really awful now, looking at nepotism there. But I'm glad about the nepotism, because my auntie's alive. They took her to hospital, but they wouldn't have done it. If that was a normal home birth in those days, they would not have done it. They'd just let her go out.
Oh my God, my mouth is hanging open. Do you know how premature your aunt was when she was delivered?
No, I know she was 3 pounds, I think, or less, 2.5 pounds, 3 pounds.
Okay. So she was maybe like, I mean, I'm just completely conjecturing, maybe like 7 months, and maybe she was like third trimester, but like not quite. Wow.
And this makes me think, when Conchita had her premature baby, they were very keen to take the baby to Great Ormond Street, weren't they? But I think actually they would have just stuck it on the draining board and
yeah, probably.
Well, maybe, yeah. Well, I don't know, probably, yeah. But then Sister Julienne did a load of prayers, and I was like, oh, that's lovely that she's baptizing it. And then this poor little baby died in her arms. And then she was like, oh, I've not baptized it. And I was like, oh, I thought you had. I was properly shocked.
Oh my God. Wait, okay, girls, quick rewind. What's a sluice room? I mean, I kind of intimated what it is from, stuff like that. But I mean, sluice? That's not really.
I would say if you go in there with a full bedpan.
Oh,
you put it down the sluice.
Oh, okay. It's that kind of a thing.
Would you think, Alex?
Yeah, a sluice isn't it like a thing that's got water that you sluice it through? So it's it's like a running tap kind of. I want to say bidet, and that's the wrong word. But it's like a sluice thing that brings water up as well, and it just cleans everything perfectly. Like it's like a pressure washing kind of thing.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, a sliding gate or other device for controlling water. So an active rinsing or showering of water. So it's kind of like a bit pressurized that you can use. Because obviously
Timothy mentioned a sluice at the start as well when he was talking about how he was gonna
clean the instruments. Yeah. Okay. I just wasn't sure, and I kind of was like, like why there or whatever, because that was a term I hadn't come across before. But I'll tell you what, when Sister Julienne walked in and saw that baby and she gasped, and then she walked over and like wrapped it in a blanket and picked it up, and then she started like saying those beautiful Bible verses, like, oh my God. I mean, I was already gone, no surprise, but I just like those words just made me absolutely just.
Well, I genuinely would have counted that as a baptism.
Yeah, I agree. To me, Sister Julienne like really gave that child like a loving something. Yeah, and definitely loving it. I mean, to me, I thought that the baby, I mean, not to get too into this because it was very, very sad and so tragic, but I thought that the baby was able to kind of go because Sister Julienne had like comforted it and could like go back and feel love, and then it was able to like peacefully depart. And the fact that it happened so quickly after she picked it up and was like cradling it, I thought that to me was like a little soul that was like able to finally leave. And then anyways,
now the hospital, despite the stark sterileness of the hospital, they did let Sister Julienne tell Mrs. Cottingham. Also, I like the fact that we've got your Mrs. Cottingham and we say Cottingham.
But she told her the next day, because she races back to tell Dr. Turner and Sheila, doesn't she?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and I was thinking that this is another situation of the mother not being told, because she's like, when can I see my baby? And she doesn't know, but actually she would have been under general anaesthetic.
Yeah, that she needed to wake up and be alert for that. Also, Dr. Turner just casually smoking while they were talking about it.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's really gotten into the smoking lately, you guys. It's
So on the telling Ruby about the death, amazing acting by Ruby Cottingham and by Sister Julienne as per.
Yeah. Wait, can we just rewind like one little bit though, because I don't often give her credit, but when Sister Julienne was so upset about the baby and she went back to Nonnatus house, she went right into the chapel and everything, and Cynthia and Sister Mary Cynthia and Sister Monica Joan were there because they were talking about Saint Hildegard and everything, or Sister Hildegard or whatever, but they saw how upset she was when she came in, and Sister Monica Joan just looked at her and was like, sister, what is it? What befalls your heavy brow, or something like that. And it was really a beautiful moment between the three of them, but I felt especially Sister Monica Joan was very sensitive and loving.
I've written a gorgeous scene with SMJ, Sister Julienne and SMC. Lovely. Showed how they were sisters.
Yeah.
Really showed the unity, like the quiet support. Sorry.
Yeah, but I have to say with Sister Monica Jones, she does pull it out. I mean, she's naughty, but she pulls it out of the bag when people need it.
100%. Exactly. Well, and she's had a lot more. I don't know if they've done it this way on purpose, or well, I mean, obviously they have, because it's a show you have to like write and create every single week. But like she's had a lot of beautiful moments this season that I feel like were more rare earlier on, and I've been seeing a different side of her, and I just want to call it out for like what it is, because I think it's beautiful, and I just give her credit.
Not to make light of this situation, but I will say Sister Julienne's obviously wrestling about whether to tell Mrs. Cottingham it was a girl or a boy or anything. So she asks Sister Monica Joan about lying. And I'm thinking, why are you asking her about lying? She is the liar.
She's a thief.
She's well up for it.
Yeah.
Are you asking her because she's well up for lying? Like,
well, listen, go to the expert, right? I mean, Sister Monica Joan knows what's up. So
because the answer she's gonna give. Yeah, it's fine.
Oh my God. Yeah, do it. I will say I mean, again, not to make it serious, but I like the fact that Sister Monica Joan was like, she says something like, I don't endorse lying, but you have to think like, which will be less cruel, or, which will be a kinder option. And Sister
Julienne, that's a philosophy I'm going to adopt in my life.
Yeah.
I think it would have been, I've written here, but I would have said it's a boy, because I think she'd be less upset, because she's been wishing for a girl her whole life, and then when she finally got one,
wouldn't be like, oh well, thankfully it was only a boy that died.
Yeah.
Hang on, hear me out. She's wished for a girl all this time, and then she finally got one and it was taken away. Whereas I'm not saying she'd be happy still, she'd be absolutely heartbroken still, but she's already got boys, and then it's just another boy. I'm not wording this well.
That works at all, Alex.
But do you know what I mean, though? Like, they've given her this promise of something that's been taken away, of something she really, really wanted that she never got. Well, actually, it never was what she wanted. So maybe it wouldn't be as I know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm
I know what you're trying to say, and I get it, and I think your point is well made. But I guess the flip side is I would kind of phrase it this other way, because okay, imagine that okay, here I'll give you an example. Imagine that you've been like dating someone, okay, and you like really care about them, and your friend also knows about it and is there, but then the guy stops calling you back or whatever like that, and you're like, oh, you know,
can't imagine that, Jen.
Yeah, well, I know it's so shocking for men to like completely drop off the face of the earth, but then like something happens, and
no, I just mean okay with me.
You're terrible. I hate you. Okay, so then like your friend finds out something bad about the guy, but he kind of goes away, and then you're like, oh, well, what happened or whatever, and it's like your friend tells you like, oh, he went away to do this, and like it kind of like retains the memory of him as a good man in your mind, even though there's no possibility of ever finding out the truth that he was like really a scumbag or anything like that. But you can kind of like have this kind of like loved and lost, like kind of romantic story, and then move on from that and just be like, oh, that would it's a way to kind of preserve you from like losing your faith in the concept of it.
So perhaps she's a friend, to continue this analogy.
Yeah,
he's actually gone to prison, but she's told her friend that he's gone to do missionary work.
Yes, exactly. And like he wanted to say goodbye.
I think I'd prefer to know about prison. I think it'd help me get over the breakup to demonize him.
Well, but wouldn't you feel bad? You're like, oh my God, why did I even care about this man who's going to do this horrible thing? Like that's
no, I think I'd be like, oh, bullet dodged.
Yeah, maybe. I guess the flip side of the baby analogy to me is like the way I saw what Sister Julienne was giving her was kind of like this like perfect little angelic baby that she could like hold onto in her mind, and then that was a way for her to kind of like think about this baby going forward and still have the thing she always dreamed of and kind of be able to hold on to that, even though the baby wasn't going to be there with her.
I don't know. I thought it was like a double whammy of awfulness. I just think it added.
She's got her 3 boys, and then she's got a girl, and like she might not go on to have more children, so she's always got a girl.
Yeah, like her family was complete then.
That one's a bit, I understand that.
I see your point, but I'll say this. The way that those 2 women acted that scene, it seemed that Sister Julienne's answers to her questions gave her a lot of comfort, even in that incredibly sad and dark and
so well acted.
Yeah, the 2 of them were just so like pitch perfect in that. But
when she was like, why? I wish I could answer that. I wish I could bring your baby back, but I can't. It was just so beautifully done. It was a gorgeous scene. Brilliant acting again.
Yeah. I felt like Ruby Cottingham was comforted by the idea that she had a daughter that she'd hoped for and that she'd wished for, and that she was right the whole time thinking that the pregnancy was going to end up in a girl. And that's how I read the acting of that scene.
Yeah, and I don't want to be glib saying about the boy thing, but I did think I'm not going to be making fun of that, but at the same time I do think I maybe would have said a boy. I just do. That's what I would have said.
Sure.
But yeah, like Jen just said, like all along she thought it was a girl because that's what she was hoping for.
So it was like maybe more of a connection to it.
Yeah. Well, and look, I mean, there's lots of, this show has taught us this before. There's lots of ways to handle a situation. And, it's not that any one situation is, any one way to do it is like exactly right or exactly wrong. Like different things can be right in different contexts or with different people or under different circumstances. Or whatever. So I think your point is well made, Alan. And like, it could have been, a good thing to have said, oh no, it was a baby boy. And then that would have been okay too. So, I mean, you're not being glib and no one takes it that way, but yeah, that's the way it played out, and I think I saw it as like that it was.
Well, do you know, this is good why we do this podcast, because you've actually have made me see, because I don't think I would have ever seen on my own at that point.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that like all I've learned, I've seen things so much of a different and more nuanced way from talking to you girls about this.
Yeah.
And the show is so deep. You can like really have these deep conversations.
Yeah, it's true. The Turners doing research as well.
They love research those too.
Yeah.
He's like, get ready, Sheila. We're gonna put on a pot of coffee when we get home. And I was like, oh my gosh, you two nerds.
But we know it's the start.
Sheila's loving it.
Oh, she's so excited. She's so excited.
She loves it when he's all tired and researchy.
Yeah, and his eyes get big bags, and he's like stubbing out a 50/100th cigarette butt and everything, and his clothes are all crumpled.
It's like his eyes when he saw her dressed as a nurse.
Those 2 horn dogs. Okay, Bex, are we moving on? Do you think we've covered it?
Yeah.
So Barbara and Tom next.
I love them. I just love them.
So we touched on it earlier because, well, in the last episode we spoke about how, in the last episode I think we were talking about how Trixie was suspecting, but now we know that Trixie knows.
Yes. She's
because,
very obvious.
Yeah, well, but Barbara's out all the time, and she keeps saying why would you be busy, Barbara? Because Patsy and Delia, well, Delia didn't really want to invite anyone to the cinema, but Patsy had done it already to Trixie. And Trixie said, we're gonna go to the cinema. Would you like to come? And Barbara's like, oh, well, I may do. My cousin Mabel, I may be busy with my cousin Mabel. I'm very fond of my cousin Mabel. And why would you be busy, Barb? The way that Trixie was very barbed in her response to her as well.
Yeah, it was very pointed. Also, Cousin Mabel is the most fake family member that has ever existed. Like, I feel like Cousin Mabel is like an automatic euphemism for like, I'm doing something else. Like,
well, do you know, there's so many Mabels now, Jen. It's a really popular name over here.
Yeah, it is.
So there'll be loads of Cousin Mabels now. Russell Brand's got a Mabel.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah.
Then maybe for future generations, it'll have to be cousin somebody else,
Reginald.
Yeah, maybe a cousin Barbara. You never know.
Do you know, I met a Barbara yesterday.
How old was she?
Do you know, she was much younger than I thought she'd be. She was about 30, 32.
Oh, that is shocking.
Yeah.
I don't know any young Barbaras currently.
I don't.
If there's a Barbara under our age, like our age or younger, out there.
I don't know any Barbaras our age. I only know Barbaras who are like 30 years old.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. If there's a Barbara out there that's listening that's like middle 40s or younger, say hi. I want to hear from them.
Let us know.
Yeah.
So Barbara goes to Tom.
Yeah.
And she says, Trixie knows about us, Tom. I don't know why I'm doing a weird.
Trixie knows about us, Tom.
And it's quite a, what's the word? Not pressured, but it's a very.
It's getting complicated.
Tense.
It's getting
tense exchange. Thank you. Yes, it's a very tense exchange. And then Tom says, I agree. We should have both got over it. And Barbara was like, I wasn't expecting you to say that you weren't over it either. And he was like, neither was I. I was like, Tom, get it back here. Just be like, I am over it. I want you, Barbara.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, but also Tom's like, it's been a year and 10 days. Like
to Trixie. Later on to Trixie when he's talking
on,
to her. Yeah, he's like, if we're getting specific, it's been a year and 10 days. Yeah.
Well, he says, I love him. So the Barbara and Tom bit, he's like, I love and value every single minute and hour I spend with you. And she's like, it's not enough, Tom. Not when it's causing pain to someone else, and not when it's causing pain to someone else. And
but
then
you know what?
Oh, go on.
I don't think Trixie's problem is that she's not over Tom. I think it's that they've not been honest with her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's exactly right.
Well, Nurse Crane spies this tense exchange, and she's like, come on, we need to go back to work. And
but
then
she sees it after Trixie has already ridden past and seen them as well. Yes. And she's getting very upset because she's like wiping away tears as she's like putting her bike away and then walking back into the house and everything.
Yeah. And then Tom, after that weird exchange, I thought this was a weird line after this whole tense exchange. He's like, you really are the sweetest and loveliest girl I've ever met. And she's like, I'm not. I'm 23 and I'm a nurse. And then she's like still crying and runs over to Nurse Crane, who's like, come on, get in the car, you go, hurry up. And she's like, I've got a hard-boiled egg apiece and it was a kind of tart or a creme brulee tart.
Coconut tart. Yeah, which I was like, oh my god, those two things do not go together. That's disgusting. I would not want to eat a hard-boiled egg and then a coconut tart right after it. Like, oh my god, barf. But okay, sure. Like, I guess
as we've talked about this, but Tom and Trixie's paths keep crossing during this episode and during the Ian and Linda storyline. Yeah. And there was that point where they're at Ian and Linda's engagement party, and Linda's dad has handed Trixie a glass of baby sham.
Yeah,
and Tom comes and he swaps it for an orange juice. But Tom didn't. I don't think Tom knows about Trixie's alcohol problem.
No,
does he?
I think maybe he suspects, but because he'll have experience with that kind of thing. But also, he probably just wanted a drink because he was given an orange juice.
Wait a minute. So that was a deleted scene for us. But do you think it's more that he thought maybe she's still on duty and she can't drink?
Well, she said she was in a uniform. She
said
he's giving me this.
Okay.
He felt awkward about it, and he was like, "Problem solved."
Oh, okay.
So he obviously didn't want an orange juice either.
I mean, listen, a pastor can always be drinking. So I mean, there isn't anything about that.
Well, if you remember, Jen, not the is it Baptist?
Methodist.
Sorry, everyone.
Yeah. But he's not a Methodist, so he can get boozed up whenever he wants. I will say this was the first time I feel like we've seen Tom like actually actively ministering. You know what I mean? Like, as I was watching this episode, I was like, oh, he talks about it a lot, and he's gone on like school field trips and all that kind of thing, and like off to see dead men and all that kind of stuff like that. But he doesn't really like, we haven't really like seen him do it. And this was like, now I don't think he did that much in the grand scheme or whatever, but he was there and he was present and he was like really advocating and helping and all of that kind of thing. And I did like seeing that or whatever. So I thought that was a nice difference.
So there was another scene after they'd come back from this, and it was Tom saying, I think it's time to let go. I think he was a bit harsh on Trixie on that.
Wait. Just set the scene, though. It was after they'd saved Ian from the gas and after they dropped off Linda,
I thought it was after
the miscarriage.
Yes, it was.
And they were walking back to They were walking back to Nonna's house, and they were saying, oh, they're going to break the engagement, but that's like, it's like a tough thing to break an engagement because it's your word of honor and all that kind of stuff. And Trixie was like, don't we know about that? And then go from there. Yeah. So that's when he's saying that.
Well, pretty much done. It was time to let go. I thought it was a bit harsh. And then I've put, how is she holding on? But I don't think she is, Bex. I think you're right.
Yeah. And I think Trixie I think the biggest betrayal in this is that then they've not been honest with Trixie.
Yeah. Well, he was like, she was like, when you're with Barbara, do you ever want to kiss Barbara? And he's like, yeah, I have done at times. And I think he was really glib with the way he said it too. Like, she looked really shocked.
Yeah.
Girls, do you sometimes wonder, like, oh, I feel so mean saying this, but do you guys maybe sometimes wonder if the Jack Ashton is maybe not, I hate to say it, maybe like the best actor? Like, sometimes he's really good, but sometimes he's kind of like a little, like, just a little, like, kind of like, oh, well, yeah, that is too bad. You know what I mean? And it's like,
I think he's great, but I will say the first scene where, the scene where the dad of Linda had Ian up against the wall, and I feel like they started this scene a bit, I think he's just started a millisecond too late going, stop it now. Like, it was just a bit too late. But I also think it's a big pressure role. It's quite big, deep storylines, and also he's probably newer to it then.
Well,
I definitely got better.
I guess I don't mean this. He's a really good actor. He's a really, really good actor. He wouldn't have been on the show if he wasn't a really good actor. But the thing that's tough is like he's now been on the show for like a couple seasons, but he's come into this group that's like obviously been together for like over 5 years. This is their 5th season doing the show together. And like these women, I mean, like, look, it's my opinion, but I think they're all absolutely stellar performers.
Yes, they are.
And like sometimes I feel like he's in scenes with some of them where it's like maybe the his like maybe the person he's in the scene with is just kind of like giving a little bit more, and so maybe he's giving a lot, but sometimes it just doesn't always seem like.
But also, you've got to remember that when he's doing these scenes, it's usually with people that he doesn't have a rapport with. Like, he's only met Ian and Ian's dad that day.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not people who are in
his defense. He was able to demonstrate no chemistry whatsoever with Trixie, even though they've obviously got chemistry in real life.
True fact.
Very good point. Very good point.
But he does show chemistry with Barbara, who he's not with in real life.
Sometimes that is a very good point. Though. That's actually kind of fascinating, though, because they always say that with casting and everything, that like if you're not doing anything with your co-star and you like really don't have anything going on with them, sometimes that's the best on-screen chemistry because there's that tension. But then like when you start hooking up in real life, then it kind of just zaps everything from like when you're acting together on film, because there's like you've already kind of like burnt it out. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
to be fair, Trixie and Tom aren't together in real life at this point.
Well, not yet, but maybe they kind of like
they're flirting with each other, though, I would imagine.
They have to be having like a crush on each other.
Well, they're going to the lunch. They're going to lunch together.
Yeah, they're standing next to each other,
sitting together on break.
Yeah,
I don't wish to conjecture on this. So Trixie had food for thought about Tom and Barbara from Linda and Ian. Yeah. So they'd had that big, deep discussion. I think it was really good. They needed a bit of closure, and I think it was good, even though Tom was glib, like, yeah, I've snogged her, what, and what? What, and? Anyway. So Trixie does the really mature thing and goes to speak to Barbara, which, let's be honest, we said it last week, Barbara should have done it to her.
Well, wait a minute. Sorry, we're just forgetting one thing that happens in between those two, is that Trixie then goes back to care for Sadie's arm wound again because she still got the burn. And then that's when Ian comes in with his like books and other stuff like that for university. And he's like, okay, I guess I am going to go. But Linda has said like, well, let's break off the engagement, and everything. And he's like, okay. And then she's like, you can have my engagement ring back because I know you pawned your dad's thing for this and da-da-da. And then there's a whole conversation about it. And then Trixie's like, oh, this is getting kind of serious. Like, I don't want to be in the middle of like a family thing. And then the mom goes, no, this isn't going to turn into a whole drama, like you stay right there. And then the mom says, like people like have to do what they want sometimes, even if it isn't like the easy thing to do, or like like the heart wants what the heart wants, something like that, basically.
She said you can't stand in the way of what life wants.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And then that's when Trixie cuts back to going in to talk to Barbara when Phyllis and her are sitting there and Barbara's working on the fuzzy felt figures for the Sunday school.
I know.
Which is so cute.
Can I just say, Phyllis did the exact opposite of what Bex would do. Phyllis left the room and gave them privacy.
I would have left the room and I would have hovered outside the door.
You would have kept it open a crack and then stood
Let's
right
be honest,
next
Bex.
to it.
If that was me and you sharing a room and I was Barbara, you'd still be sat there.
You'd be like, come on in, sit down, I'll move over. And then Alex would have been like, oh, well.
So basically everyone's laughing about the fact she's got all these, fuzzy felt apostles.
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, Barbara, you're just so nice. And she's like, what if I'm not nice, Trixie? What if I'm thinking really terrible things inside?
Yeah.
Also, she's not been nice to Trixie. She's not been honest with her.
No.
She's been a bit two-faced.
Well, hang on, calm it down. I'm Barbara.
The thing is, though, I really like that they had Barbara say something like that 2 times, because the thing is, Barbara does have kind of a reputation as like just this, kind of like perfect, sweet, always, amenable, like always, has a smile on her face, like hardworking, like takes it on the chin all the time. Like she does kind of cultivate that as like her persona, and she's much more multifaceted than that.
Yeah.
She's a more than just kind of like a sweet, pretty, smiling face who always.
We've had history as well. Her dad cultivated that from her to become that kind of thing. They were like, "This is not my daughter."
Yeah, and she was like, and I think went to me like the way she was saying it to Tom and then to Trixie was like, "No, I'm a lot more than this. Like, give me credit. Don't just like reduce me to this kind of 2-dimensional, like just like paper cutout of like a smiling girl or whatever. Like, I have like a lot going on in here, and like I don't want to just be seen that way. Like, like I'm a person with depth and meaning, and
I'm an adult."
Yeah. And like I want all the things that everybody wants. You know what I mean?
He wants Tom.
Yeah, and she's gonna get him like very shortly. Like those two are gonna be going at it.
Ooh.
Well, we know what's coming. We know what scene that. Anyways, we'll see. But But anyways, she's a young woman. She has she's in the fullness of her life.
Yeah. So her and Trixie kind of sort it out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good. It gives Trixie closure.
Yeah, they both kind of. And I think Trixie says something like, do you want to be with Tom or whatever? And she's like, well, I do really like him and I would like to try and everything. And she's like, no, I think that's for the best. Like, you guys deserve to give it a go. I mean, I can't remember exactly the scene is, but they do kind of go forward like, listen, our friendship is really what matters and we can still be friends even if you guys pursue a relationship. So.
Yeah. And Trixie can see that, they're made for each other.
Yeah. And at the end of the episode, what happens? They go on a date. Barbara and Tom go back on a date because they got broken up when they had that big fight about Barbara saying, "Oh, I didn't realize."
Me and Bex both didn't want to say the wrong thing because we were just.
I was like, "What just happened?"
Listeners, the blankest looks on the Zoom call that I just got there. But yeah, they kind of like Barbara and Tom had kind of broken up, and so that date was kind of like them getting back together in a way, and then going back out again. So
yeah, it was. To be fair, it was lovely and the start of something very special.
Yeah.
Yes, indeedio.
Love it. Okay, next up, should we do Sister Hildegard?
Yes. Okay. So listeners, as we know, and we didn't talk about it that much in the episode, but as we know, the Nonnatsons are celebrating their kind of like namesake sister, Sister Hildegard, who was the first nun to come to Poplar to serve the community there. She took her name from Saint Hildegard of Bingen, which Cynthia then referenced at the end of the episode in the speech that she made in chapel to everyone, on the show and everything. And so my mom, friend of the pod and big fan and also super fan of Call the Midwife, is also, she's very well read, lady. And I knew she knew a lot about St. Hildegard of Bingen, the original one. And so I asked her to put something together. And so I want to just share a few little bon mots about St. Hildegard.
By the way, thank you, Jen's mum. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because one of my questions was, why was Sister Mary Cynthia so caught up in Sister Hildegard's commemoration?
Yeah. And I'd heard about Saint Hildegard from my mom before, but I didn't really know. So I asked her to do this so that we could all kind of learn a little bit more together. So I'll just read some things about her, and then I'll also read a few quotes that are especially special. Okay, Saint Hildegard of Bingen. She lived in the Rhineland of Germany in the 12th century, and she died at age 82. Which is really long for the 12th century.
That is old.
Yeah.
Never believe it, but carry on.
Yeah, she was a Benedictine abbess and polymath. Respect, please, for Sister Hildegard. She was a Benedictine abbess and polymath, which meant she was a writer, composer, a visionary, a preacher, and a medical practitioner. So even a history of medicine, even in those those times, way back then. She created her own abbey, her own language, went on preaching tours, and when to do so put herself at risk of death for being a heretic, because at that time no women were allowed to preach. So, feminist, okay? Her music is still performed in concerts, not in church, because it is so flexible. It's not only religious music. 14 recordings of the same piece all sound different, as she left interpretive freedom to those who perform it. Oh my goodness. Okay, this fact I love. She's called the patron saint of late bloomers because so much productivity for her happened after age 40, with several career renewals.
Oh, girls, this is our patron saint.
This is ours. Yeah, I love that fact.
I love her. Oh my gosh. Now, like, whenever I do something new, I'm gonna be like, I'm Saint Hildegarding.
Yeah.
Okay. Insights from her medical books, Physica and Causes and Cures, hold up today.
She's in a badass. I'm loving her.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Do you guys think maybe, I don't know if this is the right book, but do you remember when Sister Monica Joan pulled the book out from like God knows where to discover the salt on the brow for the cystic fibrosis?
Yeah.
Do you think are our minds being blown right now? Okay. A biographer asked about her now regular references in popular media said, quote, "There are many ways she's a good role model. She created what she believed in. She didn't let restrictions stop her. When TV took to her as a popular inspiration, that's terrific." Do we love? Okay.
That's amazing.
Now, here's some quotes for you from Saint Hildegard. "Declare who you are. The path is not long, but the way is deep. Not only walk, be prepared to leap."
That sounds a bit Yoda-ish. I feel like Star Wars have got Yoda's wisdom.
I know. Okay, a world interpreted by others is not a home. Part of the terror is to take back our own listening, use our own voice, see our own light. That sounds like Sister Evangelina from the last week's episode when she was like, I need to kind of like listen to myself
That sounds
better.
like Yoda to me.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Humanity, take a good look at yourself. Inside, you've got heaven and earth, all of creation. You are a world. Everything is hidden in you. Oh, I'm loving her. Okay. The truly holy person welcomes all that is earthly. I welcome all the beings of the world with grace. Wow. Her stuff is like aging so well, you guys. Okay. The earth which sustains humanity must not be injured. It must not be destroyed. I mean, she's an environmentalist. She's basically Greta Thunberg, like 100,000 years ago. Okay, last one. And this one you guys will know because you'll know it. God hugs you. You are encircled by the arms of the mystery of God. That's what Cynthia says at the last part of the...
Well, I did love how special the whole Sister Hildegard, and obviously it was her first time. It made her feel really special. It was her first time as a nun. I thought that was so lovely. Also, did we see #recall for Complin? Did you see the Complin nuns?
I saw the Complin nuns. I very much noticed them this time. Yes, exactly.
But now I totally understand Sister Mary Cynthia's awe of Sister Hildegard.
Yeah, I know. She's a cool lady. I love the God hugs you part. I don't know. It's just so sweet when she said that when she looked at Sister Julienne and anyways. Well, I'm grateful that you gave me the chance to do that little explainer. Thank you.
Well, heroes and zeros, but I just want to say a quick massive hero to your mum. Thank you so much for that.
Yes. We love you. Okay,
heroes and zeros of the week.
So very quickly, my zero is going to be Barbara because I think she should have told Trixie sooner.
Yeah.
She was trying to be nice, but actually she was being far from it.
That's your zero. Okay.
Yeah. So Barbara's my zero. My hero is going to be Tom because, but not when it comes to Barbara or Trixie, but when it came to Ian, because he was the only one who actually realised the impact that Linda's pregnancy had on Ian and everything that he was giving up.
Yeah. Okay. My zero this week's Ian.
Zero was Ian. Okay.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think he was. I do think he was a bit harsh on Linda with his reaction, but I do get it was very life changing. But the only reason really that he's at zero is because he sat on the floor in the toilet. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever seen. That is literally why. And my hero this week is Delia because she waited up for Patsy and she'd never ever had anyone wait up for her ever, and she made her a hot Bournvita with whiskey in. So my hero is Delia. I'd love that.
Oh, That's so sweet. Okay, my 0 is the situation that Ruby Cottingham was in and the loss of her sweet baby, because it's starting to become a trend and it's really tragic. And I know Dr. Turner and Sheila are trying to figure it out, but that whole storyline just made me so sad. And so that's my 0. Obviously, it's just terrible. But then my hero on the flip side is how Sister Julienne handled it, because it was incredibly hard, and I felt like she really, both rose to the occasion of her own instinct when she went into the sluice room, but then she also asked for advice and counsel from her sisters, and then took it, and then was able to provide comfort to Ruby in the aftermath. And I mean, you guys know I just love Sister Julienne, so she's my hero.
She was amazing. To be fair, there's so many different ones this week.
Again, there's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, we could choose all over again and pick different ones.
Now, really quick, we've got just a minute to go. I want to just do a few messages really quick. So Tina on Facebook has said, Jen, I'm curious about the deleted scenes. I watch on Netflix and get the deleted scenes, some of them at least. I knew they were talking about with the travel at the funeral and with the daffodils. There must be a difference between different subscriptions and maybe PBS. I watch both. Oh. That's what she says. I don't. I only watch BBC.
I'd be curious what country she's in, because I think she might be right. There might be different.
Yeah. So she just did a deep dive on Netflix. It's so confusing. Some I know and have memory problems of, and others I have no idea. I'm struggling with a newer ending back problem, complete with mobility issues. What a delight to finish my 2-week deep dive into one of my favourite worlds with meeting new friends. I find myself talking back. Thanks. Well, Tina, we're actually talking to you. We are talking to you right now, Tina. So thank you so much for listening.
Tina's our friend.
Yeah. Now, another one, Bonnie on Facebook said, Connie was using a nipple shield to draw her nipples out. I have inverted nipples and attempted to use these shields when I had my daughter 15 years ago. Yeah. Breastfeeding was incredibly difficult. The first 2 weeks of my daughter's life were miserable, both for me and her. The only advice assistant I got was to keep trying, and it was the best for the baby. The day I packed up the breast pump and started formula was a relief. Bless you, yeah. The message should be fed is best and not lay on the guilt if formula is the best option for whatever reason. Amen, sister.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And just one more quick, Julie Coates says, your daughter is certainly getting an interesting education, Alex, walking in while you're watching episodes. You should absolutely have her make a guest appearance.
Oh my God, we should.
Yeah. So yeah, so next week we are doing series 5, episode 5. See you then. Bye.